are some intangibles that those projections failed to take into consideration.
The crowd was going crazy. There's not much in life that's better than that.
You're listening to Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys on the 95.7 The Game Podcast Network.
Hit to left. Tagging is Bailey. Kwan's got it. Here's the throw. And this game is over. The Guardians will, I'm sure, have somebody look at it, and now the umpires are going to look at it. They have nothing to lose.
Hello there. Welcome back to the Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys podcast. Sam Loveman here with Joe the Butcher Boy Shasky. And look at it, those umpires did, and they called Patrick Bailey safe, and the Giants got one of the more improbable walk-off wins of the year against the Cleveland Guardians yesterday. We are recording this, by the way, on Thursday, September 14th. So obviously we're talking about the Wednesday, September 13th win that the Giants were able to take 2 of 3 from the Guardians. That was one of the more surprising wins of the year, it felt like, Shasky.
Absolutely. I mean, given that heading into the homestand, it felt like it was over, right? It really did. It felt like it was over, but then you look up and you're like, Colorado, Cleveland? And for them to win a couple of these games in dramatic fashion, it meant a lot. I think we've spent enough time being negative and down in the dumps. You got to give them love when you go 5-1 on a homestand. You know, I thought that game was over at 5-1. I went and
same here.
I was at the O Club and I was working out and I'm watching on the TV. I'm like 5-1. I was so frustrated. I take a hot tub, a sauna. I come out. Bonte goes, they won. I go, no, they didn't. They're losing 5-1. I couldn't believe it.
No, I was shocked too. So I was just about to go down for my nap. So yeah, they're down 5-1. It's like, oh, I can conk out here. They're not going to do anything. I don't need to worry. For whatever reason, I woke up about 20 minutes into my nap, check my phone, and it's game's tied. I'm like, you assholes. So I got out of bed, dragged myself to my couch, which is, right there. You can kind of see it, and watched the rest of the game. I eschewed the nap to watch some Giants baseball. It ended up being a very fun game. So again, great way to finish off the homestand there for the Giants. This is episode 75. I know you're probably thinking I'm going to go with Barry Zito. That's not where I'm going to go. I'm actually going to go with this one, Shasky.
Camilo Duvall.
Ooh, that's another good one, actually. But no, I don't like to do jersey numbers. I like to do fun little stat nuggets instead. Okay. But in 350 plate appearances, over 98 career games with the Giants, Luis Gonzalez struck out exactly 75 times. Adios, pelota, or adios,
Why
Luis
you
Gonzalez.
My guy bad like that.
Oh man, it wasn't bad. So that's a 21% strikeout rate, which is slightly below what the major league average was last year. So he wasn't horrible striking out, but not enough for the Giants to prevent the Giants from releasing him this week. We thought last year that the Giants had found another kind of gem in the rough there with Luis Gonzalez. He had that really great May. He hit 368, a 910 OPS, 13 RBIs that month. And we're just like, oh man, Farhan's done it again. He hit 210 the rest of that season, and it was just the same mistakes every single time. And not a shock that he's no longer with the team.
No, it's not a shock. Can I ask you who the top 5 players are this year for the Giants in terms of games played?
Do you already know the answer to that one? Or do you want me to?
I do. Do you?
Okay. In terms of games played, all right. So I'm going to go with Wilmer Flores. Do you want an order? I'm going to go in no particular order.
Any order. Give me any of the top 5.
All right. Game show music. Let's see. Wilmer Flores.
That's one.
Jock Peterson.
That's 2. He's number 5 on the list.
All right. Patrick Bailey.
Nope.
Okay. JD Davis.
Yep. Number 1 on the entire team. 133 games played.
We'll go with Lamont Wade Jr.
Number 2, 122. And there's one more.
Let's go with the Casey Schmidt.
No. I'm going to give it to you. It's Michael Conforto. So in order, from 5 to 1, Jock Peterson, 106, Conforto, 111, Flores, 113, Lamont Wade Jr., 122, JD Davis, 133. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I'm very conflicted. That is who your top 5 guys are in terms of game played this year.
Mm-hmm.
Jock's on a 1-year deal. Conforto's on a 1-year deal. Flores is on a 1-year deal. Lamont Wade is older, but still under team control. Jay Davis, older, still under some team control. That's not good. I was hoping that there would be one of the youngsters in the mix. And so that's why I feel very conflicted as we talk about them being alive in the playoffs. Like, yeah, I see the merit in chasing the playoffs, but it's like, if those are your top dogs, I don't know. Am I wrong for feeling that way?
No, I think there's a lot of conflicted emotions that Giants fans are feeling right now. And I kind of want to get into that because I'm glad you bring up the playoff chase, because the Giants, they are in the thick of this playoff chase. As of right now, they are a half game behind the Arizona Diamondbacks for that 6th and final wild card spot. The Reds just lost to the Detroit Tigers, got mollywopped by them 8-2. So the Giants now have a half game lead on the Reds for that first kind of outside looking in spot. So the Giants are actually in it. And yet I was driving home, I'm listening to Steiny and Guru, and it's just like there's no excitement for this playoff chase because Giants fans are just kind of rejecting this brand of baseball here. And it's a weird, almost kind of moral quandary for Giants fans. Do you want this team to make the playoffs or not? And it really feels like there is a segment of Giants fans out there that just either don't care or almost don't want them to make the playoffs.
Okay, so let's go farther down this list, right? I'm going to give you 15 players, the top 15 players in terms of appearances this year for the Giants. Okay, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duvall, Luis Matos, Austin Slater, Bailey, Crawford, Schmidt, Yastrzemski, Sable, Estrada, Peterson, Conforto, Flores, Wade, JD Davis. Who's here in 2 years?
Luis Matos, Patrick Bailey. I think Tyler Rogers probably stick around for another couple of years. Doval will be here. Did you say Logan Webb on that one?
Nope.
Okay.
How about Estrada?
Because Tyler Estrada, that might be interesting. In two years from now, that might be interesting. I'll put him as a 60% maybe.
So
we've
got 4 players essentially out of your top 15 that we think maybe could be on this team a couple years from now. That right there is why Giants fans are lukewarm on what we're seeing. Like,
yeah,
to me, I think that's a clear indication. This thing that we root for Laundry, okay, to a degree, when you're outstanding and you're so excellent, winning 107, we'll root for Laundry, but you still had Posey. And you still had Crawford, and you still had Brandon Belt, and you still had guys that we cared about, at least to some degree. I just don't see that with the current bunch. And if you told me Luis Matos, and I like Matos, but if you told me he doesn't pan out a couple years from now, would you be that surprised?
No. And part of it is just because when it comes to Giants prospects panning out, the history has kind of taught me to believe that it's probably not going to happen, especially when it comes to outfielders. But as I've said before, I do think Matos is the best outfield prospect to come out of this farm system, at least in my lifetime, which I think is more an indictment on just how bad it's really been. But yeah, I think it's a good point there when you talk about why people aren't really jazzed up about this playoff run. It's because there's no one they're really getting jazzed up about. I mean, we talk about who's a guy you can get behind. I mean, I say Logan Webb or Camilo Duvall, but if you want a position player, which I know a lot of people like, yeah, you're kind of forcing yourself to really get into Patrick Bailey, who's great. I like Bailey a lot. He's going to be a very great asset for this team, I think, for years to come. But he's not that dude that Giants fans, I think, are craving for right now. He could, and that'd be awesome if he does. I think Matos, maybe he could be that guy. It would be cool. But saying they might be that guy is not the same as saying they are that guy. We need to be saying they are that guy for us to start caring. And it's just you're just not seeing it happen right now. And you're seeing a lot of Giants fans almost to the point where they're rooting against this team making the playoffs.
Well, I think that like right now you're competing as Major League Baseball against other sports and content in general, like television in general. If you don't have any characters that I have an emotional attachment to, you better have a freaking rock star show. You know, Game of Thrones killed off all their characters, but you loved all the characters or hated all the characters. I'm looking at even their pitching staff because I think we make a lot about platooning the everyday players. What about the pitching staff? It's Logan Webb, it's Alex Cobb, and then it's another faceless, nameless group of guys that are all going to go under 120 innings pitched for the season. Like, there's nothing to be attached to outside of Logan Webb, Cobb, Doval, and the pitching staff too. So, like, it's not just the hitters that they're platooning. They also
Kyle
have
Harrison in there too. because I want to be optimistic.
Okay, but
yeah, I see what you mean though.
Let's call it what it is. Like, he's pitched 4 times, 5 times, and one of them was great. The rest have been, like, let's be real. You got to be honest here. So I don't know, Sam. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I kind of get why Giants fans are reluctant to embrace this playoff race.
Yeah, I think a part of it is, and this is kind of from conversations that I've had with some of my friends who are Giants fans, and kind of conversations I've seen online. It's almost there's a desire to want to see this team miss the playoffs because that's the only way change will happen. Do you agree with that at all?
I don't ever want to root against my team.
I know that's the quandary I'm in right now.
But at the same time, what would be better for the organization? Like taking a small step back to take a big step forward, or to remain status quo and then, limp into the playoffs again, limp into the playoffs as the 6-7 seeds. And I don't know.
Is it worth it almost? Yeah, I hear what you mean. I'm the same way. I don't want to root against the Giants right now. I want them to make the playoffs. I'm going to root for them to make the playoffs because I do believe that getting guys like Patrick Bailey, Luis Matos, Kyle Harrison, Casey Schmidt, giving them a taste of that playoff atmosphere, I do think it's beneficial for them. I don't think it'll hurt at all. The other thing is, I just can't find within me as a fan to root against my own team in that situation. Like, it's a very unique situation the Giants are in. I'm very anti-tanking in that sense. I'm always going to root for them to win. But it is weird because it's like, if they do win, it does kind of feel like it's going to lock the current situation in place long-term, which would be a bad thing. But because usually when you want a GM and a manager to get fired, you don't really need to root for them to lose. They're going to do it on their own. It's very rare that we have a situation where you want guys to get fired, even though they're winning, which really just goes to show just the bad brand of baseball that we're seeing here. We had Dave Fleming on the morning roast yesterday. We kind of, postulated this at him as to, why things are going so bad right now and what changes could come. And here is kind of what he had to say, win or lose might happen.
Well, I don't think the Giants are going to be, no matter what happens here, I don't think they're going to be delusional about what their strengths and weaknesses are. I think this year has been sobering. I think when you talk to Farhan and Gabe, they had higher expectations. They really are disappointed with the way the second half has gone. And, I hope that means some changes need to be made. I'm not saying firing people, but hey, we need to reevaluate how we assess this roster. I think that's a fair takeaway from the last couple months. And so I don't think whatever happens here is going to change that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What did you think of the Red Sox firing the GM? Because I want to get into something here in a second. In 2018, the Red Sox won the division for the 3rd consecutive season, and they won the World Series that year. Mm-hmm. The very next year, they were literally 9 games over 500, 76 and 67, but they were almost 20 games behind the Yankees in the AL East, and they fired Dave Dombrowski, and they brought in another guy in the fall of 2019 who just got fired. What did you make of just what the Red Sox have done? Because I view the Red Sox as a template for who the Giants should be in the shadow of the Dodgers, the way the Red Sox are in the shadow of the Yankees.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. Yeah, Chaim Bloom, he was the guy when he came from the Rays. When the Giants moved off of Sabian and Evans, he was actually at the top of my list of guys who I wanted to take over after Brian Sabian. I was very big on Chaim Bloom because he kind of came. My belief is if you could make the Rays a really good baseball team, you're probably good at your job. So I would like to hire you. The Dodgers figured that out with Andrew Friedman. And I looked at Chaim Bloom. It's like, yeah, it'd be a great guy to get. Giants went with Farhan instead, which hey, I'm on board with that as well, because Farhan came from that same school of thought of really getting into analytically developing through the farm system and getting those internal players up into the big league roster. I think part of it with Bloom, I call Chaim Bloom Farhan East. In terms of just I think their process is very similar and the success they've had is kind of very similar. With the Red Sox, I feel like Bloom had a kind of a tough situation to dig out of. I always think following up Dave Dombrowski, this is why I would never want the Giants to hire Dave Dombrowski, because it's all just build up for one title and then leave a pile of rubble for the next guy to clean up. I think Chaim Bloom, he just kind of got screwed over having to clean up the rubble that David Dombrowski usually leaves behind when he leaves organizations.
Like they won the World Series, Sam. Like I get what you're saying about Dave Dombrowski. They won the World Series. And I ask you this because I think the Red Sox thinking over the last 20 years has evolved a lot since they started winning World Series. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Just making the playoffs as one of the low seed wild cards does not mean job retention. Does not mean that it's a job well done, does it?
Not, again, context does matter in this because nothing exists in a vacuum. The context matters. That being said, no, in this situation, that's not enough.
Okay. So then why do Giants fans accept anything less? Red Sox have the most championships since 2000. Guess who's number 2? The Giants.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir when it comes to holding standards to a higher level. No, I agree. And I do think that, again, and I had a chat with Mark Willard about this yesterday, just kind of in terms of what changes might be made if they make or miss the playoffs. He's under the belief that everyone's coming back. I think that if I were to put money on it, I think Kapler goes, Farhan stays. That's my guess.
So he gets to hire another manager?
Well, isn't that usually how it works? The manager's the scapegoat, and then if things don't work with the next manager, then everybody goes. So that's just what I think is going to happen.
He pushed out Bruce Bochy.
Oh, I think someone above Farhan, who I don't want to mention right now, Larry Bear, who orchestrated that one there. But no, in this situation, I do think no matter what, you have to have some sort of change. If you're not going to change personnel, then you at least have to change things philosophically. And that's what I don't know if Farhan's capable of doing. Smart people, I believe, are capable of doing that. And everyone says Farhan's super smart. So changes definitely need to be made. As Fleming said, I don't think the Giants are going to be like, oh, we made the playoffs as the 6th seed and got knocked out by the Brewers in the first round. Everything's going according to plan. There's no way you can rationally say that. If that does happen, oh Lordy, that 2024 baseball season is going to be very, very brutal.